The past few weeks have been probably the hardest, or some of the hardest days that I've ever gone through personally. My family's in Lebanon. The family members that I have in this country, I can count on hand. Every day has been a struggle to just keep going, to keep up with the news, to be so indulged in it. And so I feel like I'm drowning in the news, if that makes sense. Non-stop phone calls, non-stop texts. You wake up, fingers crossed, Ya Rab, we wake up and they're still alive. And it's been very difficult. And during this, you're going to see a question that I ask the guests on this episode is, what do you think the purpose is here? Living here far away from home. And that's a valid question that we have to ask ourselves. Because you see what's happening in Lebanon, you see how strong and resilient the Lebanese people have been during these times. And you have to ask yourself, as a Lebanese American, what are you doing? What is your purpose here? Going to work, coming back home is not enough. Going to school, studying for your exam is not enough. That is not purposeful. You have to attach purpose to those actions. Without purpose, we don't make change. You might have asked yourself during these times, why am I here? Sleeping on my comfy bed. The only sound that you have to wake up to is the sound of your alarm. And your cousin or your friend or your mom or your dad or your sister has to wake up to the sound of bombs. Has to wake up to screaming and yelling and breaking and destruction. God did not choose for us to come to America to live the lives that we are living just to be complacent. He chose for you to come to this country for a reason. And now more than ever, you really have to look very deep inside yourself and look at your life and ask, what is the reason that God wanted me to come to this country? With all the privileges and blessings that you have in this country, how can I give back to my people back home? You're going to see multiple people, some familiar faces and some new ones that are just talking about the way they feel. It's been very hard on everyone. And I ask about the flag that's behind me. And it's amazing how so many feelings, maybe now more than ever, that are attached to a simple cloth flag. But it's more than just the cloth and the colors, the red, the green, the white. It's a little more than that. It's what it represents. It's the type of people that it represents. I want you to take some time, listen with your heart, and I want you to tell me how this phase of life has made you feel. I hope you enjoy this episode. Not From Here is officially back, and let's get the show started.
Welcome aboard Middle East Airlines.
والمتوجهة إلى
طيران الشرق الأوسط يرحب
مدينة تونس العربية.
Oh, constantly checking the news. I couldn't even begin to tell you.
So I'm constantly looking, checking, making sure that they're alive.
It's a problem. I think I have a problem, and it's in the clinic. You're reminded by your patients every day when they talk about their family, and that kind of triggers me to check the news. Something happened to my family. What's happening to our greater community, our greater Lebanese family? So, it's probably at least 20, 30 times.
I wake up at midnight and check the news.
Nonstop. I actually, I program my phone to give me alerts when there's something new to read, because I can't put it down. I'm having a hard time putting it down.
I don't know if you were back here at the time, but we just got word of a Bazi family of 10 that just died less than an hour ago.
I have a second cousin of mine who was a paramedic who was martyred by one of the airstrikes against a medical facility in my village. And more than 20 other civilians, innocent civilians, were killed, including 10 paramedics, and scores of homes destroyed and fields burned. And it's just a miserable state of affairs.
Healthcare workers, press, this was a red line. This is a place you don't go to. These are people you don't target. And it's a shame, and it really saddens me and upsets me, and it makes me feel very emotional when I see these people because being killed and murdered, because this could be any one of us, right? These people are not doing anything. The only sole purpose of a medical provider is to help, not harm anyone. It's to help save lives. And Israel, the terrorist state of Israel, has systematically targeted these individuals from the beginning of the genocide in both Palestine and Lebanon to kind of crumble the healthcare system. Now, when you look at the new news coming out today, where they're starting to follow the same pattern they did in Palestine, as they're showing these hospitals, these are bunkers, and it's all a plan to target our healthcare system and to cause mass casualties.
My family has been displaced 4 times. My grandmother, who is in her mid-80s, has been displaced 4 times. And all she wants is to be home. She has lost many of her loved ones. My aunts, my cousins are not doing okay. She's not doing okay. Nobody is going to school. I have an aunt who has cancer who can't get treatment at the hospitals. Everything that is supposed to be normal is not normal. And every time I talk to them, they are thinking of how worse it is for others and for the people of Gaza. And at the end of every conversation, they say, Alhamdulillah. So how are they doing? They're being much stronger than we are. And, as we feel helpless, they somehow still grab on to hope to continue going and one day rebuilding, because that's what they know how to do.
So we know many families in Lebanon, and we go to bed every night praying that the next morning we're going to wake up and not hear any news that our family is gone, right? So we pray every night before we go to bed that we're going to wake up the next day and everybody will be alive. We talk to them before we sleep. We wish them good night. And they're telling us what to do with their bodies if we find out that they're not alive. They're saying goodbye to us every night before we go to bed. And we're waking up so relieved that they're alive, but so guilty for being happy that one person alive, but knowing that so many others have died. And I know it doesn't sound fair, but we do have a connection. It's different. It's different when you have a connection with somebody. All those lives lost are our family. They're all our mothers. They're all our fathers. They're all our children. So it's just a battle of emotions.
I have my bint Amt is in Akkar now. She was from the Dahiya. She fled to parts of Beirut and then to Jbel and ended up in Akkar.
My heart aches for all this struggle and all this trouble, and I add my voice to what happened last week among the Christian Muslim convention, and they made a great statement with our patriarch, the Greek Orthodox Patriarch of Antioch, and their statement about the unity, about support of all Lebanese. And I have learned that from Suru Saida to Mount Lebanon, to Tripoli, to Beirut, to Akkar, that our bishops and priests have opened their churches, their hospital, their schools, their home to welcome all this immense tragic who lost their home overnight. So I think this tragedy have unified Lebanon. When we think about pain, suffering does not know nationality or religion. A human being only suffer. So we're all suffering. If one member suffers, the whole body suffers.
Everything we're going through is not normal. What is happening today should never be normal, should never be normalized. Every time the phone rings or I get a message, and this is not just personal to me, I think every single person in our community is going through this. We're scared. We're scared that we are going to hear the news of someone that we love, or someone that our loved one loves, or a home that we have rebuilt many times because of an illegal occupation. We are reliving traumas, and it should never be normal. So I don't think any of us are going through, anything close to what should be normal.
I already deal with, trauma and all that stuff on a daily basis, but this is a stronger reminder than anything than how fragile life is, how all of this means nothing. It could be taken away from you, out of your control, just by circumstance or whatever. And so, in the end, it's Allah and Akhirah are the only two things that are left, and so you have to align yourself with that, and that's what our ultimate goal should be.
Martin Luther said, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And, until the world becomes a more compassionate and more merciful place for people to live and to enjoy what we in America recognize as a part of our Bill of Rights, a part of our U.S. Constitution. We recognize and acknowledge certain unalienable rights, such as the right to live, the right to liberty, freedom, equality, justice, and fairness. Those are noble American values that are capable of universal application. But we have not seen that in real life being practiced. All people would be happier if we begin to do that, if we begin to become serious about making sure that there are no double standards and everybody is held to the same moral and ethical, basically, code.
I mean, how are you going to feel? It sucks. You crumble when the builders crumble. You crumble with them. Not only that, is when you see the pain in the people. Buildings will be rebuilt. They've been rebuilt, but you see the memory is lost. The soul's taken with these buildings. It hurts. It really does hurt. And I think my purpose changes, and at this time my purpose is to work as hard as I can to ensure that my community here, as well as my community in Lebanon, has a better life tomorrow and a future tomorrow.
As somebody who grew up under Israeli occupation, every position that I have had, every circumstance that I have encountered as someone who has experienced injustice firsthand. And I bring that with me. The reason why I think I was the advocate that I was in our state government, from our district courts all the way to the Supreme Court, was because of that advocacy and that fight for justice that we crave, because we know what it's like to be deprived of it. So every single journey that I encounter, position that I take on, I bring all of me with me, and that is, Binit Lijnub, the daughter of the South, and that is South Lebanon, somebody who understands resilience, somebody who understands that it is extremely important to not lose hope, to not lose faith, and that when we talk about patience, this is the ultimate test. I'll tell you, as someone who is looking at the situation now, as somebody who has advocated for the laws of this country, who stood in front of our highest courts and advocated that the courts uphold our laws and how important it is to do that, it is it is very, I can't even come up with a word to tell you how disheartening it is to see that our government officials in the highest places in government are not enforcing our own Lehi laws and our international humanitarian laws. So when I think about it as a victim of occupation, I know what it's like. But when I think about it as somebody who has dedicated their career to public service, advocating for the laws of this country, I am deeply confused and disheartened and feel that it is the most American thing that I can do is to continue to advocate, to uphold the laws of this country, and to continue to put pressure on those that hold the highest of office to do what is so profoundly American, and that is to uphold our laws and put a stop to this madness and to this genocide, which is well within their control and to do. And I encourage them to follow the same laws that I took an oath to honor, and I have honored every step of my career on behalf of this country.
And that's why you may feel a little bitterness in my voice, because we are trusted the same way we trust our politicians to uphold our U.S. values, our noble values, as I just said, with equality, justice, fairness, and treating everybody the same, and hold those who break the law accountable. And when you see that being ignored and being violated day in and day out, and people are doing that, and instead of being held accountable and punished for that, they are in certain cases rewarded. And it really creates this conflict, this internal conflict.
Our politicians, our government will not only keep a blind eye, but they will defend, justify, and they will fund the genocide of our people. And it really, really hurts.
I think the greatest gift we have as Christian is not those who claim to be Christian, but who does the will of God to feed the hungry. Because generosity to help the needy, it has no color, no creed, and it's usually blind to whom you give. And I think it states how the Lebanese people in general, how they are united together by roots, by history. I know sometimes political party separate people, but when it comes to suffering, they all come to one goals, to stand with each other. Because if we don't stand with each other, whom we are going to stand with? Lebanon is the mother. Whether it does not belong to one creed or one nationality or one religion. Lebanon is the mother, and as long as you love your mother, she always welcome you.
So I can only tell you what I know from my father, who immigrated to this country. My father, our whole life growing up, said, "God bless America." And it's not because he agreed so much with America's policies. He definitely didn't agree with America's foreign policy. But to my father, America was a place where he could come and provide for his family back home. My father was 12 years old, and my grandfather sent him from Bint Jbeil, Lebanon, to Africa by himself. He traveled by himself to Africa to go work with a cousin that they had to send money back home to the family. So when my father says to me, "Shu kunna amilna bala America," I feel for him. And I understand what that means to him, because it afforded him an opportunity to take care of himself. But more than that, what meant more than that to my father is that he was able to take care of his family. My father came from a huge family. So when he worked here and he sent money back home for his mother, for his father, for his sisters, for his brothers, and then he brought them family by family to America. We grew up in an 1,100 square foot home, and there was never a time that a family didn't live with us. There was barely room for the 7 of us, and my father was bringing family by family. He'd get them a job. They'd save their money. Once they had enough money, they'd buy a house, and then he'd bring the next family. And I still remember growing up, my whole life, people would stop me in the street in Dearborn. And they'd ask me, Inti bintu lal Hajj Kamil? And I would say, yes. They would say, your father brought me to this country. My mom used to sit on the kitchen table and just fill out paperwork for everybody. My father would bring her forms all the time. Fill out paperwork for Flynn, fill out paperwork for Flynn, we have to help them. So it was about coming here and making a life for himself, but never forgetting where he came from and the people that he left behind. And I recently heard a story. I'm not sure if you heard me tell it today, but I'll tell it again. There was a man who was traveling from Lebanon back to America. And he handed the Borders and Customs agent his passport when he got back to America here at the airport. So the agent looks at the passport and he says, I see you were born in Lebanon. He said, yes, I was. He said, I see that you're a citizen of the United States. He says, yes, I am. The agent says to him, which do you love more? And he looked at him and said, this is a very difficult question. The question you're asking me, I can only compare to somebody asking me, who do I love more, my wife or my mother? My wife is my new partner. I met her, I chose her, I asked her to marry me. We built a new life together. We created a strong bond. I rely on her, she relies on me. She doesn't always treat me well. We fight sometimes. But she's still that comfort for me. And I'll never, ever forget her. And I never want to be without her. But Lebanon, my mother, is in my soul, in my heart. She's the very fabric of my being. When I'm there and I smell her, it brings back my life. I feel like I hadn't been nurtured for so long. She's always willing to hold me. She's always willing to love me. No matter where I go, no matter what I do, she'll always be there for me. In her arms is where I find the most comfort. And you know, when I heard that story, it just hit home for me so much, because growing up here in America, a person who visited Lebanon for a couple of years when my father took us back there, I've been recently, you know, for the past few years, we've been going every year. My kids have only been there once and they love it. How can you only be somewhere one time and love it so much? And I give all of that credit to people like my father and the people before him who made sure that we never forgot where we came from, that we always knew who our mother was, but we're always willing to embrace our new spouse.
I'm a Muslim before anything. My American identity is part of that. My Lebanese identity is a part of that. But I'm a Muslim above everything. And like Imam Ali says, there's 2 types of people, right? Your brothers in faith or your equals in humanity. Regardless of these borders that are drawn upon us and forced upon us, there's still innocent people dying. No matter what part of the world you live in, no matter what country you're in, no matter what stance you take on this, you have to admit there are innocent lives being lost in this.
And what makes it hurt even more, these are streets that we've walked when we've been to Lebanon. You know, we watched what happened in Gaza and it killed us. Sleepless nights, crying. And now when it's happening in Lebanon, it's not worse, but it's a different pain. Because those are streets you've walked. Those are beaches you swam in. You've been on. Those are mountains you drove through. Villages you drove through. So it makes it different. It's a different type of pain. It's hard to explain. A girl read a poem yesterday about Palestine. She kept saying, why me? Why? And I ask myself that question all the time. Why? It could have been my family in that building.
The Lebanese flag?
That flag means love. That flag means peace. That flag means joy. That flag means a fresh breath of air and the smell of diesel at the same time. You know that smell and that feeling you get when you just get off a plane in Lebanon and you're like, man, I feel the humidity. I smell it. You know it. There's nowhere else in the world where you get that smell. That flag means hospitality. Nowhere else in the world will you walk on the street and the strangers welcome you into your home, into their home, and that flag means resilience. And we will return to Lebanon, inshallah, a continued free Lebanon.
That's resistance, that's strength, that's power, that's belief in Allah.
That flag, I'm getting me emotional, so we gotta take this part out. This flag taught me everything. What it means to be a humanitarian, an advocate, somebody who is resilient, somebody who is able to rebuild time and time again. That flag means my grandmother, my cousin. It means the most honorable people. In Arabic, we call it Ashraf al-Nas. It means all of those people who continue to resist and to continue to hold on to simple, basic human rights and values that here as Americans, we say we uphold and we hold so dearly. Everything that I am and everything that makes me me, everything that this very country has honored me for, I was taught in that land, behind this flag. And that flag and what it represents, I think is everything that I would say is honorable about me, and it is everything that I have to bring forward to every table that I pull up a chair to sit at. So,
this flag, it's like a beacon. It calls to you. It's like that lighthouse bringing the ship home, right? The ship goes out. It's doing its job. It's out on the water, loves it. It has some rough seas once in a while. But that beacon is always calling it home. And when I see the flag of Lebanon, it calls to me. I can't help it.
You know, resilience, proud, courageous. I don't think I've seen a more resilient and proud people than the Lebanese people. God bless them, and may God give them the strength to continue the fight. That flag represents a lot of pride. I'm half Syrian, half Lebanese. I've been to Syria for 6 days. In my lifetime, I spent months in Lebanon. And I've seen what proud people of Lebanon are.